Hello, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Tuesday, the 22nd of November. My name is Rachael Parker, and I am an Anglican priest with the responsibility for Dayspring Ministries, which is a collaboration of three Anglican churches: St. Mary's in Edgerton, St. Saviour's in Vermilion, and St. Thomas in Wainwright, in the beautiful Diocese of Edmonton in the province of Alberta in Canada. My pronouns are she and her. I'm glad to have you with me today. Now, if you're a good Canadian, you recognize something that's really, really wrong right now. I am wearing a poppy, and it's 11 days after Remembrance Day. Now, traditionally, we take our poppies off at the cenotaph on Remembrance Day and put them on a cross, or lay them with the wreaths. I'm wearing this one today for a very particular reason. I had the privilege of being able to be present on the ice in our arena in Wainwright, the PMM, for the official Remembrance Day service for our community, which is run in collaboration with the Legion in Wainwright and also the Royal Canadian Legion, and with CFB Garrison Wainwright in Edmonton, or in Wainwright. And as the Padre for the Legion, this was my first Remembrance Day with them as their Padre, and I didn't have a role, but I did sit with the veterans on the surface where the MC and everything was happening. And where I was sitting, because I wasn't participating, I was on the far side from where the MC was. There was a guard, and there were 3 rows. I think they were all young men. They could have been women, but they were all, the ones I saw were all young men, members of our Canadian military, who had been chosen from their unit to be the guard at the Remembrance Day service. And so they were in their dress uniforms, and they were all wearing their green uniforms with their berets, and were all prepared. They were on guard. They marched onto the ice, and they stood, and they got formed up, and they stood at tension, and then at ease, and attention, all these things. I've been in my military since my husband went Reg Force. So since 2008, for the last 14 years, I have been around military members and never thought much of it. Well, I appreciate them, but don't think too much of it. But sitting there that day, having done 3 previous, in the 2 days before that, had led 3 remembrance services at the hospital and 2 of our retirement communities, our nursing homes in town. I was really, really aware of how few of our older veterans we have, and awed by the number of the young veterans we have. A number of them that were gathered in the PMM have medals. They have been on deployments. They have been to war. They have been to Afghanistan. They have served, and yet they aren't 30, 40 years old. The contrast from years gone by when I was a Girl Guide and a Brownie, participating and seeing the older vets, who they seemed ancient to me then. Now I realize they weren't that old at all, who had served in when I was younger, World War I, World War II, Korea, and all the peacekeeping missions that Canada has been on. It was overwhelming. And now what is overwhelming is that the age of the veterans has changed. But sitting there on the ice in my chair, as the guard was preparing and they were called to attention, they all do everything together, and then they come together at attention, and they snap their feet so that one foot, their right foot comes down at exactly the same time. And it vibrated through the ice and the boards upon which I was sitting. And all of a sudden, I had this overwhelming feeling of being protected, of being guarded. The guard was right there beside me. I know that nothing was going to happen. I wasn't in threat of anything, but I had this overwhelming feeling in that moment and through that service that beside me were these young men and women who have dedicated their lives, their careers, their service to making sure that I can be a priest, that I can do this with you, that I can go on Sundays and preach to my congregations and visit them in their homes and talk to them when things are difficult and celebrate when things are wonderful, that I have the right to do as I did yesterday, talking about elections, and I have the right to go out and vote. These young men and women gathered beside me who were on guard during that service have dedicated their lives to making sure that my life can be as full as possible. And it really made me think a lot through that service and on into my holiday time. It made me think a lot about what it means to have people who are willing to lay aside their personal opinions, to lay aside their personal politics, to lay aside even their desire to be with their families, to stay home where it's safe, to have a 9 to 5 job where you're home every Friday night at 6 and you can hang out with your family all weekend. These people who have willingly chosen to pledge themselves to the King and our country. I think the God part has disappeared, but they have devoted themselves. They have pledged themselves to honor and defend God, or the King, our King Charles III, and our country, to do what needs to be done to ensure that Canadians have all of these freedoms and responsibilities and blessings that we have. It's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. It seems sometimes that we talk a lot about our young people. In the Canadian Forces, they now have, we recognize they're having a retention problem, getting people, recruitment and retention, getting people, young people, to even want to be in the military. And so they've changed the dress regulations. You don't have to have your hair cut precisely in one, really short and neat manner. You can grow a beard. You can have piercings or tattoos visible outside your uniform. You can wear rings, nail polish, things like that. Nothing, of course, if it's going to jeopardize operational security. Like if you can't have, bright orange hair if you're out in the field. If you're in battle, you have to have it covered up or dye it. If you can't put on, if you need to do firefighting and your mask won't cover your face because of your beard, then you might be asked to remove your beard. But practically speaking, they've relaxed a lot of things around what we expect. And there's a lot of people who are very frustrated about that. Like, what have we done? We're watering it down. We're not going to have a strong military if we allow these young people, these young pups, to tell us what to do. The fact is that if we don't find ways to encourage the young pups to join the military, we won't have anyone standing on guard. Because like those veterans of World War II and Korea and World War I who are dying or who are restricted in their mobility, it won't be that long before those members of our military have grown so old that they are no longer able to serve or they've retired out. And if we don't find ways of recognizing that the world has changed and what things are the most important, well, yes, I'm proud to see a young person, man or woman, in uniform with clean cut hair or a bun, a woman with a bun pulled, her hair pulled back and nice and tight. I like to see, no big earrings and things like that in uniform. That's an aesthetic. That's what makes me nostalgic for the days of yore when that's what our military looked like. But at the end of the day, will I feel guarded by someone because their hair's cut a certain way or they're clean shaven and they wear their uniform exactly so? Or will I feel guarded when I know that they have dedicated themselves, they have trained, they are a crack shot, they are excellent at their job. If they're a tank driver, they know how to get things done. They know how to take care of the people in that tank. Is it more important about what they look like? Or is it more important that they know that they have a job that they can do well, that they are trained to be excellent at, and that they are still willing, regardless of what they look like, to offer up unlimited liability, which means they are willing to die, if need be, for king and country. I think we're getting a little too wrapped around the axle here about what we think, thus older folks think, our military should look like, and less paying attention to what our military needs to be able to do. For our military to be able to defend our northern border, as well as our southern, if need be, to be able to go into the world, to participate in NATO, if an Article 5 was made, if something happened, we need there to be members of the Canadian Forces who are properly trained and ready to go. And if that means that we grow up and recognize that it's not about appearance, but it's about heart. It's not about what makes us feel good, but it's about knowing that we have allowed people to train and become excellent at what they do, what they have chosen to do, then we need to grow up and let them. So to all of you out there who might disagree with me that, the military is going to hell in a handbasket, okay, let's see what that hell in a handbasket looks like if it means we have a military. I know how I felt on November 11th when the officer called that guard to attention. I felt guarded. I felt protected. I felt safe, and I felt appreciative. And that didn't become because they were clean shaven or they had a perfect haircut or their beret was on correctly. It came because each one of those men and women were there because they chose to be there to serve their country. And that is what we need to pay attention to. And so I will now take off my poppy and I will lay it down because I will wear it again next year. But I'm going to lay it down someplace where I am reminded of those men and women, many of them very young, who are still choosing and are about to choose to join the military. Not because they'll look smart in a uniform, because they might not, but because they want to stand up and serve this country because they love it and they love what we stand for. And so to all of them, I offer a hearty thank you and a God bless you, and I will continue to pray for you daily. And to all of you who have been watching, I offer you the same thing, a thank you, a God bless you, and I will continue to see you, hopefully, daily. Have a great day, and I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael.